this video, we will discuss the stairs and how to input the stairs into your building. So let's go into your drawing assignment. First floor infill, stairs, elevator, toilets, and interior. You should have left what we call the placeholder for your stairs. Once you put them into place, you may need to manipulate your walls and move them and maybe change sizes and possibly even location based on what you're trying to accomplish. So if you read lesson 5, pages 5 through 1 and 5 through 74, this will help you. Stairs can be quite challenging in Revit. With the basic package, we're kind of limited on what we can do. But again, there are some things that we can do to manipulate them and make some modifications to make them work. You can also make your own and customize your stairs, but we are not going to get into that. So before we start drawing stairs, we need to talk about the basic terminology that's involved. Here's a diagram. You notice on the left at the top, we have the top rail. Notice it is a continuous rail. This is important. The code says there can be no obstructions in that rail. Also, you notice that rail is a little bit taller than the actual handrail, so it's basically considered a guardrail. The handrail itself is again a continuous piece. It has an extension at the top and the bottom. The stair that you choose in Revit, if it doesn't do that, don't worry about it, but just remember that code does require those extensions at the top and the bottom. Then that handrail is attached to either this rail here or attached to a wall with supports. And again, there are certain requirements as far as spacing, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then we have the baluster. Those are the vertical members. Now, those vertical members can be metal, they can be wood, you can have glass panels. There's lots of different options for that. There is a maximum required spacing if you have the vertical rails, and that is 4 inches. You cannot put a sphere that's larger than 4 inches through the spacing of your balusters. The stair itself is made of treads and risers. The tread is the part that you step onto. The riser is the part that raises up. The edging is called nosing, and it typically sticks out about 1 inch beyond the riser. And then we have what they call here on the diagram the support. You may also hear this referred to as the stringer. Again, knowing the parts of the stairs and the correct terminology is important. Another stair element is the run. This is the continuous section of the stairs consisting of the risers and the treads between the main floors and or landings. According to code, we cannot go more than 12 feet vertically without having a landing. Our floor-to-floor height is going to be 14 feet, so you are going to be required to have a landing in the middle of your stairs. The flat horizontal part that you step on is the tread. By code, that is 11 inches minimum. The riser, which is the vertical portion, which fills the gap between the treads, and not all stairs have risers. Sometimes they can be open stairs, but there still will be a distance that you have to step, and the maximum is 7 inches. And the minimum is 4 inches. This needs to be very consistent. If it's not consistent, then that causes a tripping hazard, so code requires that. We talked about the nosing, that's the outer edge where the riser and the tread come together. The landing, that is going to be somewhere in the middle of your stairs. Again, the landing must be the same depth as the width of your stairs. So if your stairs are 4 feet wide, the landing has to also be 4 feet wide. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute. The supports or the stringers, again, we talked about that up here. These are typically going to be made out of different materials. In residential, it's typically wood construction. For our purposes, in a commercial project, this is going to be what we call a metal pan stair. Basically, it's made from steel tube or a C-channel, and it has a stringer on each side, and then it has the pan that the treads and risers are made from, and they pour concrete in that to make that. So here's kind of what a stair looks like in Revit when you create it. You notice it has an up arrow, shows the direction of travel. It has a line for each of the treads. It has a little hidden line behind that. That's where that tread overlaps the riser by the 1 inch. You're going to see your handrails and your guardrails on each side. Then you see a break line, because if you remember, on our floor plans we're cutting and looking down at about 3'6". So that's where this break line is happening. It continues to show you the rest of the stair as a dashed line, so you know where that stair is going. So we have the cut mark, that's what it's talking about here. The stair path is what it's talking about here, and the up and down arrows and the up and down text. We talked about this already. We have balusters and we have the handrails. So next we're going to talk about the handrails specifically. There are certain heights that rail needs to be at from the nose of the treading, or like from the edge of the ramp. Needs to be between 34 and 38 inches. We typically put it, and that's to the top of the rail, we usually put it at about 36 inches, so that makes it pretty easy to stay within the 34 to 38 inch range. The handrail needs to be a certain distance from either the baluster or from a wall, and that is 1.5 inch minimum. This gives us room to put our fingers around the rail and in between the wall, so that is important. Guardrails, again, are a taller railing system, which may include a handrail to prevent people from falling from a stair or a floor edge. A guardrail has to be 42 inches tall, so it typically is taller than your handrail. Again, on the stairs, the top rail is supposed to have an extension. Here is some information on the handrail cross sections. You can have round ones, you can have rectilinear ones, you can have oval shaped ones. Again, it gives specific requirements for that. This is all based out of code. So again, Revit does most of this for us, so we don't really have to worry about that. But if you're ever working on something specifically and need to know this information, it is in the code book. Additional stair information. The width of the stair has to be a minimum of 48 inches clear. So you should make your stair width wider than that to get 48 inches clear between the handrails. For a straight run stair, you need approximately 5 foot by 35 feet for landing at the bottom, top, and intermediate landing. Depending on your door locations, you may need more clearance as you need to meet the ANSI door requirements. For a U-shaped stair, you need approximately 10'6" by 20 foot for landing at the bottom, top, and intermediate landing. Depending on your door locations, again, you may need bigger landings. If you're going to utilize the space under your stairs, code says you have to have a clear 80 inches. Stair treads and risers, as I mentioned, shall be of uniform size and shape. The tolerance between the largest and smallest riser or between the largest and smallest tread shall not exceed 0.375 inches in any flight of stairs. Your stair enclosure must be a 1-hour enclosure with a minimum of 6-inch metal studs. It can also be masonry. So we are ready to actually start drawing some stairs. So I have 2 stairwells in my project. I like to not be too concerned about the spacing itself, but to work on the stairs first. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to go to one of my elevations, and I need to make sure that my second level is set to 14 feet. If I don't have that set to 14 feet, then my stair is not going to be correct. It doesn't always correct itself if I change my level height after the fact. So I always want to make sure and check that. So I want to put my level height at 14 feet. Again, all you have to do is click on it and you can change the number to 14 feet and it will adjust accordingly. So once I have that set, I am ready to go into my stairs. Now again, I don't like to try to draw it within my space. I usually draw it out to the side, and that way I can manipulate it and do what I want to. Then I can put it into place and I can start looking and seeing what I need to do with my walls. So to do a stair, I'm going to come over here to my architecture tab and I'm going to come over here to stair. Now if I look over here in my components, I have some preset types of stairs. I don't like to use those because it doesn't do the risers when it turns a corner correctly. It does them at angles, and by code in commercial we cannot do that. So I usually just go with the run here, And then from there, I come over and I decide what type of stair. In this stair, I have an assembled stair, I have a cast in place stair, which is going to be like a concrete stair, and then I have a precast stair. We're going to use the assembled stair. If I go in and I look at this and I go into edit type, first thing I want to do is make sure that my riser and my height is set correctly. And it says 7 inches and 11 inches. Here's where I need to be very, very careful. If I have a run width of 3 feet wide, that is not going to work. Code says it has to be 48 inches. If I made this 4 feet, I'm still not going to have enough clearance because that's not going to take into account for my handrail. I'm going to go with 56 inches just to make sure I have enough clearance. If I want to look at the calculation rules, I can come in here and do that. But again, it does all of that for me, so I'm not going to be concerned about that. I'm just going to go with this basic stair, so I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to say OK. So it says the run is in the center, and my actual run width is 4'8", and I have an automatic landing. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start my stair. And as I start my stair, if you look very closely, you can see it says 8 risers created, 16 remaining. So I'm going to do a U-shaped stair. So I want to come up to where I have equal risers on each side, which is 12 and 12. And then I'm going to click. And now I'm going to come over a certain distance for right now. I can adjust it later. And I'm going to click and I'm going to do the remaining risers. I'm just going to pull it down straight. So now you see I have equal amounts of treads and risers on each side. Now I don't like this big gap in here. So if I click on this and I bring this over and I bring this over, I want about a foot in here, give or take. We need a little bit of space in there because we need to be able to go in there and paint, to clean, but we don't want that space to be too large because we don't want to use wasted space on our stairs. So if I click on the check mark now, it's going to create my stair for me. So the first thing before I go any further is I want to make sure that I have adequate distance between here and here, and I have 4'6". So I could have actually made my stairs a little bit smaller, but this way I should be okay. Then if I come up here and measure from here to here, I have 4'6". So you can see it created the same depth landing as it did the stair width. If you want to make yours a little bit narrower, you can. That's not a problem, as long as you have 48 inches clear. So now that I have my stair created, now I can move it into place. So I'm going to grab my stair, I'm going to go to move, and I'm going to pick this top left corner. And again, this needs to fit tight to my walls. So I'm going to place it here. So you can see I'm going to have to extend this wall out to cover my stairs. So I'm going to do my align, and I'm going to pick this outer part of my stair, and I'm going to pick the inner part of my wall. And now I'm good there. The next thing is I have to make sure I have the proper clearances here at my doors. So I need to go back to my ANSI and read what it says. So if I look at my doors, I have them swinging out in the direction of egress travel, and I look for that type of door swing. I can, one, as I'm going out the door, which is this one, and you'll see that on this side of the door I have to have 12 inches clear. That's not a problem. So what I really need to look at is coming into my door, and between the swing of my door and whatever object I have, I need to have 18 inches. So if I go back to this, Basically what that means is I have to have 18 inches between the edge of the stair and where this door is. So if I come in and measure, I don't have that. So I need to move this wall or move my stairs out, either one. So I'm going to move my stairs, which I think will be easier. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to place a dimension between here and here, and it's 11 and 1/8. Now I'm going to grab my stairs and I'm going to do move, and I'm going to move this 6 and 7/8 inches. And now I have my 18 inches clear there. So now again I need to move this wall out, so I'm going to use my align tool again. And I'm going to pick this outside line of my stair, and then I'm going to pick the inside line of my wall. So now I have adjusted to get my 18 inches clear at my doorway and move my stair to make it fit. The other thing that I want to do is my room tags that I have in here. I like to put them where you can actually read them, because if they're on top of my stairs, I can't read them. So if I have room tags and I can't read them, it does me no good. So that is how you would do a stair that is like a U-shaped. There are other kinds of stairs that you can do. You can do an L-shaped stair. I'm going to come up half of my risers again, and then I'm going to come over and place my L-shaped stair. Now I can adjust this. I can do move. And I can do move. And make this all have a nice little landing there. I can do a straight run stair. I can come up 12, then I can do my landing, and I can continue up. I can set this landing to be the same as my width. I can change that to be 4'8" in this case, enter. And then when I click on my stair, I should have a nice stair. So if we look at these in 3 dimensions, you can see we come up, we have a landing, and we come up. Now there is no top landing here. We'll do that with floors. Same here, this one comes up, makes a shape there. If I remove this wall, then we can see my U-shaped stair here. So this concludes the part on stairs. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Next, we will go over elevators.